wonder if it'll even connect to the cloud server. Oh, that's at least a bonus, a positive.
Well, it works.
Yeah, the fact it works.
Look really, really washed out. I don't know what to do about it. Apart from ask the sun to go in.
Yeah, honestly, can't wait for winter. But anyway.
The only person in the world can't wait for... Oh, no. Actually, yeah, with your setup, yeah.
Right. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. It's the first F1 Grand Prix weekend at Mugello, and on Ferrari's home soil, it's the Mercedes that have been dominant all weekend, but it was a yellow flag that helped secure pole position for Lewis Hamilton today against his teammate. Welcome back to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. Today we'll be analysing today's Tuscan Grand Prix qualifying at Mugello. We are powered by the F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews, and opinions on all things Formula One. Hosting today will be me, not George Howson, but Ruby Price. And joining me are engineering student Owain Medford.
Hello.
Broadcast journalist Louis Edwards.
Hello.
And Master of Engineering Jack Watson.
Hello.
So, Owain, Bottas ahead of Hamilton all weekend apart from the one time it mattered. With the yellow flag, was Hamilton lucky to secure his 95th pole position today?
I think it was a little bit based on his final lap not being so quick in the first sector, and he didn't improve. So, I think Bottas might have actually been able to, be able to pull out a little bit of time on him because it wasn't a perfect. Hamilton's first lap wasn't perfect, and Bottas was, could have gone quicker. So I think it was sort of a bit of a sigh of relief really for Hamilton having that yellow flag.
They've been crawling around on that warm-up lap, and there was a suggestion that maybe he just went a bit too slow for the entire thing.
Potentially. I mean, there was a bit of discussion on whether that could have, having cooler tyres, for the first sector, and obviously, that might have saved him for the final sector, so he might have made up even more time there, where other drivers might have been losing it because they'd gone a bit more quickly on the outlap. Obviously, it didn't come to fruition. We didn't see that play out either way, but yeah, it's a sort of interesting sort of nuance to it.
Louis, Valtteri Bottas in P2. He said he had so much more time and the yellow flag hindered him. That's certainly the case today, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was really unfortunate that he was the car behind Esteban Ocon who spun. And, he looked very quick. He'd set a purple first sector and really looked on the ball today. It's a better sort of performance from Bottas that we've seen in a lot of recent, Grand Prix weekends. So, he may be a bit hard done by, but, good start tomorrow, and it's difficult to overtake. You never know. So you need to, focus on tomorrow, and I think you could have a good race.
And Max, he looked so close during Q2 today, and then, finished 0.3 off in Q3. P3, though, we're used to seeing this top three, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he'll be happy with how close it was because on a track like this, it's gonna be all that matters. Getting that time down will hopefully bleed through into the race pace. And with there being so many flat out corners, like we've seen in the sector 2, the Mercedes are just monstrous. So to only be around 0.3 off, it's been refreshing to see him actually being able to bring somewhat of a fight to the two Mercs.
Now, Owain, a driver who will be happy with, the qualifying performance that he put in today, Alex Albon, P4. Still 0.4 off his teammate, but, being in that P4 is exactly where he needs to be for Red Bull.
Yeah, it's much closer than he's been recently, and he's been helped a little bit by the cars not being so quick. But it's good to show that, he's within half a second of Max, and is sort of there to pick up the pieces and to help Red Bull, to be able to pressure Mercedes. Obviously, Red Bull now have two cars in the top four, rather than sort of fighting with one car behind their back sort of thing. So that's good. Obviously, going to make his standing within the team hopefully go up, and also put to bed some of the sort of questions about his future at Red Bull.
Yeah, I'll be hoping for a good result tomorrow. Maybe even hoping that, he can get ahead of one of those 3 cars ahead of him and get that first podium. But as we've all said, overtaking here is expected to be difficult. But yeah, Louis, a driver I don't think any of us would have expected to see in Q3, let alone in P5. Charles Leclerc with, a lap to get up to P5.
Yeah, it was a remarkable achievement after, frankly, piss poor performances from Ferrari recently. But no, great job by Charles. He's just one of these drivers that can just pull it off. We've seen it, multiple times this season, that he seems to have a much better grip of that Ferrari than Sebastian Vettel does. And, he pulled out an absolute stellar lap. Is glad that Ferrari can, take away some positive from the fact that this is their 1000th Grand Prix, and, having at least one driver, let alone getting into Q3 would have been great, but P5 even better.
And they're rocking that, somewhat barbecue tinted livery this weekend as well. I like it. It's a bit different, but I like it. Jack, Sergio Perez with that 1 place grid penalty, currently in P6, will be starting P7 tomorrow, ahead of his teammate. But he's leaving that racing point at the end of the season as well. He's still got something to prove, though, hasn't he, Sergio Perez?
Yeah, he has, and it does kind of show that he's managed to out-qualify Lance on a under-upgraded car. Lance has all the upgrades they bought to Magellan with those new shrink-wrap side pods. It's unfortunate that he's got that 1 place penalty after a bit of a clumsy exit. A bit of a clumsy pit exit. But yeah, he's like you say, he's still got that point to prove. There's nothing in it in terms of the times, absolutely nothing. So, it's still going to be a good place for Racing Point. They're still going to want to take the fight to Charles and to Alex. So, they're in a good position, and it's good to see them back into that form that we sort of see them lose a little bit in Spa and Italy. So, Monza, sorry. So, they'll be looking forward to a race tomorrow.
And Owain as well, Lance Stroll, potentially we might see something, but probably not. Coming out in potentially an unsafe release in the pit lane ahead of Max Verstappen. P7 though, if he got that second run in, there's the suggestion that he could have been higher up.
Potentially. I didn't really sort of think about that, but yeah, if he was impeded, if he couldn't do a faster lap time, then yeah, he might have been higher up. Obviously, it doesn't look good for Stroll to be on the newer bits on the car, the revised bars boards and that sort of thing, because of his obviously better position in the championship, and be behind his teammate. So that looks bad, but I think obviously upon a bit further inspection, it's not as bad as it really seems. Obviously there's a bit of track evolution that would have gone on just from having other drivers running. So I don't think he's as slow as he looks, basically.
And Louis, the Renaults have been sort of struggling this weekend at least, but Daniel Ricciardo up in P8, I think he'd be happy with that at least. But again, as for everyone from 5th below, like they all could have done better. But Daniel Ricciardo in P8.
No, I think it was a good job by Daniel Ricciardo today. It was clear that we saw tremendous performances from Renault and from McLaren in recent weeks, and they were completely off the ball today. But Ricciardo, to get it into Q3, get a solid P8, it's a place where they can, they can move forward, they can make opportunities from that place, still continue to score points, which is, at this point of the season is completely crucial in that midfield battle. Just Renault need to make sure that it keeps scoring points if they have any hope of getting third in constructors, and Ricciardo did what he needed to do today.
And Jack, a team who have been struggling this week, McLaren, Carlos Sainz managing to get up to P9. He's lucky to be there, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. They have seemed to struggle now that the downforce is round back on. I'm sure we'll touch on Lando later on, but he didn't seem too bothered about his lack of pace and quality, so maybe they've got something in mind for the race. I think I heard this just after quali, and it was mentioned by Carlos at Monza that they seem to have been hit quite hard with this power unit regulation to fix one setup for quali and the race, because they said that they seem to have one that flattened the car somewhat in quali, where they were just like, all out on the engine. So that straight's not insignificant, and as we've said, like turns 5 to 8 are completely flat out, regardless of what car you're in. There's a lot of elevation change, so that's a lot of strain on the engine, and it's just going to sort of tire him out a little bit, losing a little bit of momentum. So, yeah, it can kind of make sense as to why they sort of slipped down a bit. But I mean, we know how fast those boys start, so it's good.
Yeah.
They're two to keep an eye out for.
And as you mentioned as well, just before we started the show, like the time that he set is slower than a time that was in Q2.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I heard he was scrubbing in a set of softs. So yeah, I mean, he would have gone all out in Q2. I can't remember, was he on the softs or the mediums in Q2? I think he was on the softs to get into that position. So, but yeah, I don't think they were planning on thinking about it. I don't think they would have been planning to push too hard in Q3, just get where they could and save the tyres, because it seems like they could be a bit high.
Absolutely. And Esteban Ocon, Owain, obviously in P10, didn't even finish a lap really in Q3. You know, disappointing day for Esteban.
It's disappointing, and I think he should count himself lucky. He's not, his team and him should count himself lucky that through his mistake he hasn't, given them a late night rebuild of the car. Luckily, it's just sort of hopefully be a bit of gravel rash and, a bit of running across the grass. Because if he'd hit the wall or had, I think Norris was lucky to get away with what he got away with a similar incident. But the fact that Esteban's done the sort of same thing and hasn't hit the wall is kind of a miracle. I mean, that's a lot less, potentially stressing the team that he's luckily not put them through. So, it could have been an awful lot worse for him, I think.
And obviously as well, like with rebuilding a car, there would have potentially been grid penalties and stuff like that, which would have just, compounded the day for them. So, lucky to be in P10, but, when Danny Rick's up there and they were very much doing a lot better in Q2, they should have been a bit higher for sure. So starting on the bottom half of the field, Lando Norris, P11, fresh tyres tomorrow. Fast starting McLaren, Louis. He could be up there in P7 or 8, come the end of the first lap, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he definitely can make up a lot of ground on the first lap, and it's disappointing for Lando today. I think it could be the first time we've seen the season that he hasn't. I think apart from Hungary, it's the first time he's been out in Q2 this season, which is a tremendous achievement for him. And it is clear that the McLaren just didn't have the pace today. I think it was just giving it everything, and it was just never going to be enough. But as you said, he didn't sound too arsed over the radio that he'd gone out so clearly. McLaren are thinking that they've got a good race pace and can push on tomorrow and make up ground. Even though it is a difficult track to overtake, I think both Lando and Carlos are drivers who can really sort of make the most out of situations.
Definitely. Now, Jack, a team that, won last weekend's Grand Prix, were looking really strong in Monza and weren't looking slow this weekend, but Danny Kvyat in P12, we saw him going across the gravel at the end of Q2. They'll have been hoping for more this weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought they'd be at least have one in Q3. That car didn't look too comfortable. I don't know if anything had changed in terms of like track temperature and things like that between Friday and Saturday running, but the car looked a bit like unstable, perhaps, or like transitioning between understeer and oversteer, not a very useful way, especially when you need to commit in so much of this track. So, yeah, I don't know if the conditions changed, but yeah, it seems like the car got away from them a little bit. Yeah, they'll be quite disappointed with that.
So, Owain, I nearly called him the lead Ferrari because I forgot that Leclerc's actually done well this weekend. But Kimi Räikkönen up in P13 ahead of, Sebastian Vettel and Romain Grosjean and the other Alpha. That will be, I wouldn't say pleasing for Kimi, but it will be at least a bit more of an average, for Kimi.
I mean, it's always nice to out-qualify your old teammate when they're in a works Ferrari and you're in a Alfa Romeo. That's got to be nice, to be honest. It's not by much. It's really not by much. But he's starting 4 meters ahead on the grid, and Kimi's no slouch, and he won't be easy to overtake as much as he sort of got eaten up last weekend. So yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good for Ferrari to actually have a Ferrari powered car that far up, Leclerc not included, because I think that's obviously Leclerc vastly outperforming the car, to be honest. But it's a good it's a good place to start.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of obviously comparisons that this is the circuit that he first tested for Sauber for and all of that. There's been a lot of talk about needing a groove at Mugello, and if anything, Kimi Räikkönen has got that groove this weekend. But yeah, Louis, Sebastian Vettel in Ferrari P14. He'll be glad he's going to a different team next season. I wish he was going next weekend.
Yeah, given performances, I'm definitely sure he'd be hoping to up in that that racing point. But no, Vettel hasn't looked with that car at all this weekend. He's been a bit all over the place, and he had a spin yesterday, and then his car halted on track yesterday. It was just not destined to work for him this weekend. So it's not really surprising that he went out when he did, but it's definitely a shame. I think Sebastian would have, even though he's kind of fallen out with the team, I think he would have wanted to do something special, considering it's what occasion it is. So it's hard luck for Sebastian, but who knows what the race will bring.
I think it was pretty telling as well when he said on the radio after Q1, like, did we get through? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, oh. He almost sounded disappointed they'd have to do another lap in the car. But Jack, a surprise appearance in Q2, Romain Grosjean in the Haas. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, no, not at all, to be honest. In the end, he was a fair bit off of the rest of the Q2 pack. But yeah, it makes a change to see him actually out. Mind you, I suppose it is a bit flattering because of the next person we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, he'll be happy with that. I don't know if he maybe looking at that gap. I don't know if he maybe pushed as hard. Mind you, he is 2 tenths down on his Q1 best. So, I mean, who am I to judge? But yeah, it's a fairly good position for what the Haas can achieve. They're right there with their supplier. So yeah, again, it'll just be a case of keeping tabs on the superior team, and they'll try and do a Kimi, I suppose.
So, Owain, from riches to rags, Pierre Gasly starting in P16 tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a sort of down to earth with a bump, as has been said. Obviously he's sort of won last weekend, and now he's sort of qualifying P16. I don't remember his starting position for the race last weekend, unfortunately, so I can't say whether he can do a similar performance. I guess the thing is he's confident in the car, which will be helpful, and he'll maybe have better race pace than he does qualifying pace. That's the sort of only hope for them, really. I think. I don't think the car is as strong as it was last weekend, for whatever reason. So that might be a bit difficult for him. But hopefully he can sort of make up some places, so it doesn't look so bad come the end of tomorrow.
Yeah, Gasly's had a really good qualifying run since, the last time that he was out in Q1 would have been Spa 2019. So, it's not the end of the world for him, but it will certainly have been a shock to his senses after the highs of last weekend. A driver we are used to seeing out in Q1, but we're also used to seeing him make up a lot of places on the first lap. Louis, Antonio Giovinazzi, P17, still not the last of the Ferrari-powered cars, but the penultimate of the Ferrari-powered cars.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. It's not been a smooth ride for Alfa Romeo or Haas this weekend, and I think Giovinazzi is getting very used to going out in Q1, but he knows how to make up places, and he knows that he's not last, so it's less places to make up to get a good position. So he'll be hoping, it is another home race for him, back-to-back home races, so he'll be wanting to put something on for the limited amount of fans that'll be there tomorrow. So good luck to him, but it's going to be a tough race.
Now, Jack, we saw George Russell going over the gravel trap, and all of a sudden I thought, he was going to end that season and a half record of out-qualifying his teammate, but no, he comes and sets a faster lap than his teammate who's on on the track. He'll be at least happy to, continue that run, even if, he potentially could have had the pace to be in Q2 today.
Yeah, that's the thing. First rule of F1, beat the teammate, even if he is a rookie, still got to beat him. And yeah, sure enough, I don't know, he must have found a secret bit of tarmac or something on that gravel. That was brilliant. To be fair, he did know he'd lost time. You could that on his team radio. He finished the lap saying, I went off. Sorry, guys. So yeah, there was more time in that lap, despite the improvement, which means he probably would have got Giovinazzi looking at the times, actually, just over 100th of a second difference. So, again, Russell doing what Russell does, just caning it in qualifying. Unfortunately, we know, we can certainly suspect what will happen to that Williams. They're naturally going to struggle. It's a bit of a draggy car. Hopefully, less of a as a low downforce high speed circuit like the past ones we've had, should be less of an issue here, the drag. So if the dirty air is not too bad by some miracle on them, they can maybe at least stick with the Alphas and the Houses and try and make a bit of an improvement from where they are.
And the first weekend since the team's history where the Williams family haven't been involved in the Williams car for a race weekend. Latifi in P19, Owain, he'll have been disappointed. He'll have thought, this is my chance, like if he'd been able to see George, off the thing. But he was doing strong this weekend, Latifi.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be a bit disappointing that he's behind his teammate, and then when his teammate's made a mistake. So, he's not doing too badly. He's still out-qualified, a Ferrari-powered car. So that's not the worst thing in the world. But then again, he sort of assumed his position as, bringing up the rear of Russell. So I do think he needs to beat Russell at some point during the year, but he does seem to race a little bit better than Russell. In some ways, I think he needs to make up a few places and sort of capitalise on some retirements, to be honest.
And Louis, to cap off the grid, Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, only 0.02 of a second off the Williams, but that's still last.
Yeah, it's not something we've come to expect from Kevin Magnussen starting at the very back. We know the Haas is bad, but I don't think it's that bad that it sort of justifies, being at the very back of the grid, considering where Grosjean was able to put his car. So, he'll be, sorely disappointed, but I think his first job he'll want to do is get past those two Williams cars and then, press on. As has already been said about the Williams, their race pace is going to be probably pretty dire, as we've seen time and time again, and it's just important that he gets past them and then tries to push on and get a good race, and hopefully doesn't take anyone out in the process.
He might be starting last, but it's rare that you see Kevin Magnussen finishing last. So on to the stars of qualifying then, Jack. Who really shone for you today?
Star of qualifying. Bit of an unorthodox one, but I would say Ricciardo for that Q2 lap, because that was something else to get all the way up it's a shame he couldn't repeat it. But yeah, I was really impressed with how hard he managed to push that Renault at a track that I suppose we could understand where it wouldn't be as competitive as it had been previously. So yeah, Henrik.
Owain?
Leclerc for a 5th place in a Ferrari.
Yeah, basically. George? Louis?
What Owain said, Charles Leclerc, absolutely terrific drive today, and a huge result for Ferrari, given that you wouldn't expect them to do even remotely not even get into Q3 probably.
Yeah, I'm going to side with the majority here and give it to Charles as well.
Can't argue with that.
I don't think anyone expected to see it, even at their own Grand Prix circuit, but lo and behold, they did. So, Jack, who's going to be on the top step tomorrow?
Bottas. I'm staring into the webcam and you're like, I'm willing. Come on, man, you've got to do it once. Don't fluff the start.
Owain?
I'm going to go Hamilton because I don't think that anyone's going to be able to follow. It's too difficult to track like that.
Just got to hope that the pit lane stays open the entire race.
Yeah, it's...
Louis?
See, I think there's probably going to be a high chance for a safety car tomorrow, given all the gravel and everything. So I'm going to go Verstappen on the top step through some mad strategy.
I'm going to go for a bit of a bold one just because it's the kind of season that throws them out. Charles on P1.
Yeah, that is for sure.
That's brave.
I mean, Mugello we've never raced at before in Formula One. We're expecting safety cars, and it's Ferrari's 1000th Grand Prix. You never know what's going to happen.
Well, we might see the return of Mystic Ruby. You did get Gasly to win the race.
Yeah, I actually did, and I have no idea how I did that. It's like Owain predicting that, Bottas and Verstappen would, end up taking each other out at Silverstone. Well, not taking each other out, but swapping places at Silverstone.
Didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Just happened.
Jack, who's rounding off your podium?
I'm going to go Hamilton and then Albon. I reckon Max will get some sort of issue or that power unit issue or something. So I reckon Bottas, Hamilton, Albon.
Owain?
I'm going to go with Albon and then Verstappen.
Ooh. Louis?
I'm going to go Verstappen and then Leclerc.
Well, at least we're both predicting Leclerc on the podium.
So not a lot of us rate Bottas.
Come on, you can't. Well, you really can't at the moment. It's been so poor.
Yeah, I'm going to say Hamilton then Verstappen rounding it off. Since, I didn't put him at the top. What's going to be your bold prediction, Jack?
What would be unusual in this race? I'm going to go with 4 Renault-powered cars earning points. All 4 of them.
Owain?
Shall I just pick 3 drivers and then put them on the podium?
I mean, you've already picked your podium.
Oh, well, it's bold prediction podium.
Go on then.
The one that nets you 35,000 euro or something on one person in the world who believes that. I'm going to go with, Ricciardo for a podium. That's a bold
Ricciardo for a podium. I mean, he's got to get that first Renault podium at some point if Cyril's getting a tattoo. Louis?
Does anyone know how many laps there are in the race?
I feel like we should, but no.
Well, because I was going to go the Williams to be lapped within 15 laps, just because I don't have any faith in the car.
Hold on, speak for yourself. God damn you, Formula One.
The Williams to be lapped within the first 15 laps of the race.
59 laps.
59 laps. So within the first quarter of the race, they're going to get lapped. Is
Yeah,
that just one of them or both of them?
It's just one. I think
one.
that Mercedes is going to be on rails tomorrow, especially with the lack of overtaking. I think we're going to see a massive train.
We've all predicted lack of overtaking, and I'm guaranteeing that it's just going to be like swapping and changing the entire way through the race.
Blue flag, blue flag.
Like that was my prediction, sort of based on there being some sort of safety car or something to change it all up.
I'm going to say 5 safety cars tomorrow.
When was the last time we had 5 safety cars?
I don't know.
Canada.
2011.
I think it might have been Canada a while ago.
Yeah. But, if I'm expecting Charles to win tomorrow, I've got to have another bold prediction.
Is there a Noah's Ark level of rain coming that none of the weather satellites can see?
Just will it into existence.
I mean, from space.
We need some rain this season, like during the race at least.
If you think hard enough about rain,
let's get the Bernie idea of sprinklers on the track.
Yeah, exactly. It helped actually spruce up Singapore for once. A couple of years ago. I think that is everything. Unless anyone's got any other comments, since we're not doing a post show on Facebook. Track limits.
What track limits?
Exactly.
The track limits are the gravel.
I do fully understand them being like, we can't implement them for the technology wise this weekend because obviously, one, they can't exactly get the construction people working on, things properly at least. And also, this might not even happen next season, like at Mugello. So investing in it might not be the most valuable asset.
Still annoying though.
Yeah, for sure.
It's disgraceful at times.
I reckon that was just a bribe to the race stewards by Martin Brundle. Gravel marks up at the track limits and leave it at that.
I don't see the problem with that at all.
I was just thinking. Carry on.
No, sorry, I cut you off, go on.
Oh, no, it wasn't about track limits.
You're going off topic.
I am, but it's mostly for a joke.
That's it.
Go on. All the pressure's on you now.
Well, I'm just thinking that because Mercedes have painted the safety cars red, if one does come out, it'll be the first time a red car's led this season.
That was a cheap shot and you know it, but it was worth it.
Yeah, very cheap.
The irony being that Ferraris aren't really red this weekend.
And that red car is still a Mercedes.
I reckon it's the same car.
I think it could be the same spec car, but I don't think it might be the actual.
I don't think it's exactly the same car. Do you reckon they've got 2 customers that just wanted red cars in Italy and we're just like, we'll just use them for one race?
Who knows?
Unless they just put like a wrap on it or something that can just easily.
It's probably that. It's almost certainly that.
I think we'll call this one there, though, to be fair, Sorry that there wasn't really a live show on Facebook, technical issues and all of that jazz. But we do have an official store for merchandise. Jack might model a mug for us right now, if you're watching. Just go to the Chronicles website to get custom mugs, t-shirts and more. We usually broadcast this show live on Facebook, so like the F1 Chronicle on Facebook to see the show early. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Omni Studio and Pocket Casts. Just search F1 Grid Talk. There's a huge back catalogue of shows. This is episode 59, so there's 58 more, including ones featuring Mario Zoli from Pirelli, some about Tiregate and Senna. We are on Reddit, the new F1 podcast looking for feedback. We have a subreddit, F1 Grid Talk. And we also have a Patreon for mics, lights, and better recording equipment. Maybe a blue/green screen or 2. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow to review the Tuscan Grand Prix race. Thank you very much to the panelists for joining.
No worries.
No problem.
And thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
And stop recording.